Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. There was some real drama, it got fiery and heated. There was some real bitterness in the final event of the Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury press tour in Los Angeles. There was pushing and shoving, and it wasn't just WWE stuff. There was some real feeling in this. And we also had Shelly Finkel in the process hitting the deck. You can see here on screen, man down. I'll get to the drama shortly and also Tyson Fury's take on it from his Instagram. But first, I'll work through the earlier part of the presser because the bitterness that built up, it came from Tyson Fury's taunts. And he was well and truly managing to get under Wilder's skin by the end of this event. And right from the outset, Fury was at Wilder, throwing jibes his way, saying a man wearing pigtails in his hair couldn't beat him. And there was no shame in Wilder losing to him because he's the greatest heavyweight of his generation. And Wilder tried to respond with his well-worn lines of he'd knock Fury out, he provides knockouts, and people will come to see him put Fury's body on the canvas. And Fury just simply responded by piping up and saying he'd done an experiment on the streets, and he said no one knew who Deontay Wilder is in his own country, but they knew who he was, prompting him to say, how can I come over to another country and have all the fans? And that effectively Wilder needs him, and that Wilder will be Tyson Fury's easiest fight. Easier than Klitschko. This is what Fury was saying to Wilder. He was saying he was going to be nothing. He'd get through him easy. He went on to taunt Wilder, saying he'd been knocked out in the amateurs by a little fat fella, and the Russian man cleaned him out. And this was the first instance in the press conference where you could see a bit of emotion from Wilder, biting at the insult, the taunt, the jibe. He said, I thought you was an honest man. I thought you was an honest man. I thought you was an honest man. Don't scratch your ego. And that prompted Fury to say he'd come over expecting a challenge, but he said it was 3-0. And then he proceeded to say Wilder has skinny little ankles, tiny little biscuit hands, an ugly face, and a girl's hairstyle. And pretty soon after this, in the next sort of 20 seconds, they were up in each other's faces. Fury telling Wilder to brush his teeth, your breath stinks. And then Fury initiated a shove. And this was at the point where Wilder was set off. Within a few seconds, Wilder was lunging at Fury. He had to be stopped and restrained, held back. And Fury was up dancing on his toes, calling Wilder a dosser. And Wilder then launched into a bit of a tirade which included him saying he would have no mercy for Fury. The pushing, the shoving, it intensified at this point. More people were joining the tangle, including a bunch of very short security guards. These security guards were tiny. And during this time, a shove from Fury's side, it sort of, the group went over to the left and Shelly Finkel got knocked over like a bowling ball. See on screen here, hits the deck. And it did feel at this point that it had gone from WWE type action, the sort of normal sort of pushing and shoving you might expect, to Wilder really having the eye of the tiger, wanting to get at Fury. His entourage was piling in. And this whole situation where it did feel there was some real bad blood, that they actually did want to sort of sort things out here, have a straightener. And it continued for a few minutes. And the Showtime panel described it as ugly scenes. And Brendan Schaub, who was on that two-man panel, the Showtime pre-panel, which came through at the end, he said Fury had again got the best of Deontay Wilder. Wilder hadn't brought his A game, he'd been drinking water and eating sweets, while Fury was allowed to take over the event and say whatever he wanted on stage. And that's effectively how I saw it too. Fury certainly finished the stronger. He won the verbal sparring. If he didn't win the New York event, that one was close. But overall, he dominated Wilder with his personality. And it was probably this Los Angeles event, the most dominant verbal performance from Fury in the three presses. And I'm sure Fury, he'll be well pleased with his efforts. And it did appear he was able to get under Wilder's skin. He was able to throw some new taunts at Wilder's way and make him lose his cool. And Finkel, by the way, he did seem to be okay. He was up and about shortly after the fall. He didn't seem to have broken a hip or anything like that. Some will say what appeared to be real emotion was staged. And it's possible. But I think it will serve to actually just help build the fight, because there was an element, there was a real edge to some of that. And some of it couldn't be faked, I don't think. Some of it was obviously, they were going through the motions, but then it did get a bit real towards the end. And this is in part what Tyson Fury's performances, and that's what they were designed to do. And the other part of it is he wants to get in Wilder's head. He wants to unsettle him, ruffle his feathers. He wants to get Wilder emotional, chasing shadows. He wants to get Wilder doubting himself, dent Wilder's confidence. And we saw a constant stream of insults over the 3 days, levelled at Wilder, including Wilder's fought 35 tomato cans. He only has one real win under his belt in Luis Ortiz. He's a 5-fight novice. He's only taking on Fury because he thought he was done. It will be Fury's easiest fight. He was knocked out by a little fat fella in the amateurs. He doesn't have a chin. Plus, there were various insults about Wilder's appearance in general, including several references to Wilder's apparent childlike ankles. So Fury, every day, he stepped up the insults. He delivered something new. He was piling it on, and that's not easy given, new material every day. It does get a little bit tired, a little bit old, but he was coming up with new things every time, sort of stepping it up, seeing what reaction he was getting, then he'd move on to the next one. Whereas Deontay Wilder, he was incredibly refrained, not only at the Los Angeles event, but overall. He didn't stoop to Fury's level, he kept his lines pretty tight, mostly reiterating that he was going to knock Fury out and saying timber and stuff like this. In a way, because Fury is on the comeback trail, he'd been out for 2.5 years, it was kind of impossible for Deontay Wilder to try tear strips off Fury in terms of how good he might be, because then it would look like it was a blatant cherry pick, which Fury was just openly accusing him of anyway. So Wilder, he needed to keep it above the belt in terms of his material. But the problem then became, because some things appeared to be off limits, he didn't want to go there, his material just got a bit old and tired. He wasn't saying much of note. It came across as repetitive and like he didn't have anything of interest to say. But the end result, and this is the important bit, is the press tour has done a good job of promoting Tyson Fury, which is what the fight needed. It was going to be a very hard sell if casual fans, and this is who's largely going to be buying the pay-per-view, thought that Wilder was going to walk through Fury. They needed a viable opponent. Fury is coming back from a long layoff after all as a result of drink, drugs, depression, and so on. It's well documented. So I'm sure while Wilder might be bristling at some of the insults to some degree, maybe he didn't think Fury was going to go as hard as he did, I'm sure those who are promoting the event, they're going to be happy with the result. Fury did a good sales job for them. And just going back to before the presser started, the Showtime pre-panel, Brendan Schaub, he spoke of Wilder's stardom, saying he didn't really know why his friend Wilder wasn't a big star in America given all that he'd achieved, the knockouts, he was charismatic and so on. But he did cite potentially it was related to too much choice and entertainment for people in the United States to choose from. But he did believe that the winner of this fight would become a big star in the United States. And Schaub, who is a personal friend of Wilder's, as I mentioned, he also dismissed the suggestion that Anthony Joshua is scared of Wilder or scared of Fury. He doesn't think any of these guys are scared of each other, but he said they do have to fight each other. And that there was really nowhere else to go now for Anthony Joshua, that he almost was in a position where he'd be forced to face the winner of Wilder Fury because of fan demand for it. In many respects, I agree, there is mounting pressure for Anthony Joshua to face the winner. And in terms of the Wilder-Fury fight, it's building nicely now. For all the claims of the fake beef, the WWE-style action, the press tour, it's getting media coverage, and the best insults and shoves are going to be winding up on TV screens, online, it's going to be in front of casual fans to see. And potentially it'll get them hooked, get them interested to buy the event, watch it. And all involved want this event to do well, and it will improve Wilder and Fury's commercial value substantially moving forward, especially if a Joshua fight is on the table. The winner of this is going to get a boost and potentially can command more for a Joshua fight or just more in a rematch. It would be a bigger event. And tickets, they're on sale right now for the fight at Staples Center, starting from $75. And there was actually a clip that came up on Deontay Wilder's social media. A YouTube channel had interviewed him, and during the course of that, they'd learned that $1 million of tickets had sold within the first 25 minutes. And you'd expect this will be a sellout and probably won't take too long to sell out. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't a sellout, actually. A point of interest I thought I'd just throw in here, Showtime's Stephen Espinoza stated it was the first heavyweight title fight in Los Angeles since 2009 when Vitaly Klitschko defeated the unbeaten Chris Arreola at Staples Center. Frank Warren, he also made an interesting comment in his address that he said Tyson Fury fought a good Klitschko, not the version Joshua fought 18 months later. There was certainly a sneak diss there, or more than a sneak diss there. He also said that Fury will be standing his ground against Wilder and there will be some serious fireworks. And I like hearing that, but I just don't believe Frank Warren on that. I think there was a bit of bullshit rolling off his tongue there. I'm not sure it happens at all. I think if Fury is static for any length of time, he could be in trouble. I'd also note, and this is something that seems to have gone under the radar a little bit, Deontay Wilder is involved in this promotion more than just being a fighter. His promotional company is involved. That's something he's just set up, and that's a good move for Wilder. So while he's taking on some of the risk and the cost involved with some of this, he will reap the rewards on the back end. He will get a cut off the pie. So good move for him, a logical progression. A lot of fighters end up doing this to some extent, and good for him to get into that side of the boxing business as others have done. Get a real cut of the money. And Tyson Fury, he is now off to Big Bear for his training camp, but he had these parting words on his thoughts on the presser.
Hey, this is a Gypsy King reporting live from Los Angeles, California. I took Deontay Wilder to school today for the 4th time. Only had 3 press conferences, but I'm 4-0 up, because tonight was a 10-8 round.
That's it from me. Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.